This will be the story of how 3 teenagers will be summoned into a world of power and magic. One of them will surpass the limits of power. A young man is resting quietly on the greenish grass. He is very bored in the situation he is in. Some bullies are beating a student. They are humiliating him in every possible way. Izayoi wakes up from the nap he had. He says he also wants to be part of this fight, throwing many stones. The force with which he throws them is so terrifying that these delinquents run away in fear. Izayoi is disappointed to see such weak people, when suddenly an invitation letter falls from the sky. Meanwhile, in another place, a woman realizes that an invitation letter is inside her bedroom. No one could enter her room, so she decides to call her maid. She uses a control skill. She orders her to tell the truth. The housemaid cannot refuse to answer and reports that she did not see anyone entering this room. This seems interesting to her. She is called Asuka. In a world full of islands and animals, a girl receives an invitation letter. She was curious to know what it is and decides to open it. The invitation said the following: anyone who has special powers and wants to demonstrate their abilities, they must accept the invitation. Anyone who accepts the invitation must leave behind their friends, family, and all earthly ties. These young people accepted without hesitation. These 3 young teenagers were sent to another world. They fell from the sky into a small lake. Izayoi can't believe that 3 people fall from the sky at the same time. This can't be a coincidence. They started talking to each other and introduced themselves. They all say they received an invitation letter and now they are here. A woman is watching from the bushes and can't help but laugh at these newbies. Izayoi notices that someone was inside the bushes and asks her to come out or get beaten up. The woman who came out was a rabbit, but before she says anything, Izayoi attacks her. She is saved by the skin of her teeth. All these guys wanted to know what this rabbit girl was and they go in the capture of this woman. After a few attacks, they surround her and manage to restrain her. With no choice, she decides to talk. She welcomes them to the small world, a place where it is ruled by magic, power and games. She introduces herself as Kurosagi. She explains that she summoned them to this place to play the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games are not for just anyone. The people who are here had special and out-of-the-ordinary powers. The powers they have were assigned by gods, demons, stars, or spirits. What matters is that they had special powers, just like most people who come to this world. This world where you are is governed by gambling. You can bet your powers, territories to rule, prestige, and among other things. For them to understand, it will be better for them to play a card game, something very simple, but if they want they can play combat games. The way and how they do it is up to them. She summons a table, explains that they will have to choose the highest card in order to win. Izayoi asks what they would win if they bet. Even if it is a trial, it would be good to bet something. The rabbit girl says that if she loses she will fulfill a request they want to make. Izayoi looks at her breasts and asks if she will really fulfill any request. She says she'll only fulfill anything as long as it's nothing kinky. He says he was just kidding. They agree to play this out. A scroll appears listing all the rules and punishments they proposed. Izayoi looks directly into Kurosagi's eyes and slaps the table. This makes all the cards get messed up and very easily these young men take the highest card. As there was no clear rule about hitting the table, so he did. Now with much ease they raised the cards higher. That girl had lost the game. Since Kurosagi had lost, he had to fulfill a request. Izayoi asks him to answer a question honestly as punishment. He asks if this world is interesting. Kurosagi smiles and explains that every person in this world has supernatural powers. She assures him that this little world is much more interesting than anything in the outside world. This guy here was the leader of a small community. He inherited such a position very young, as the previous leader had died. The rabbit girl says that he has brought 3 spectacular people to the community. She notices that one of them was missing. The other girls tell that Izayoi went off to explore the world by himself. Kurosagi gets mad because that boy was the most promising of the group. She throws a tantrum and goes to look for him. Asuka and Kasu stay with the boy. He is called Jim. As these girls were novices, he wants to explain some details to them. They arrive to a city where all kinds of races inhabit. A man was watching from the shadows. The rabbit girl was traveling at high speed in search of the troubled boy. She hears that someone was fighting and goes to see who it was. She manages to meet Izayoi and scolds him for running too far away. She asks them to go back, but this boy doesn't want to. Izayoi just smiles and tells him that he is going to explore the world without needing anyone, when suddenly a water dragon appeared. This dragon was popularly known as a god. The dragon says that the battle is not over and they proceed to continue fighting. Izayoi is very confident in his victory and keeps fighting as if nothing has happened, and the dragon uses his best skills, but in the end he loses. The rabbit girl feels that this was the man she was looking for to improve the community. Meanwhile, the girls were ordering something to eat. There we learn that Kasu could talk to animals. being admired by the others, and we also learn that Asuka has the talent of control. She wants to explain a little more of her power when suddenly a man sits next to them. This man says he has something to offer them. Meanwhile, the rabbit girl is happy that Izayoi won. Not only that, but they also got a water sprout. Izayoi realizes that this girl is hiding important information. He questions whether the community that summoned him might not be in decline. Kurosagwe's silence seems to confirm the suspicions. Inside the city, this man introduces himself as Aldo. He says he has a proposal for these girls. Without much preamble, this man invites them to join his community. That man proceeds to explain why it was not worth staying with this boy and his community. Jim, being just a kid, had lost most of the games until he was left with nothing. The community had lost its name, the flag that represented them, and many of the members were enslaved when they lost. Now there were only 2 people left within the community, the rabbit girl and this boy. That truth was also being told by Kurosagwe to Izayoi. She says that within her community, the only ones who can fight are her and Jim the boy. The other members were orphan children. She asks him as a favor to join their community. They want to return to their former glory. That's why she needs Izayoi's strength. Izayoi wanted to explore the world on his own, but helping this rabbit girl wouldn't be bad either, so he decides to agree to help them. She simply says thank you. Inside the city, Aldo was bragging that he always won his fighting games against other players or communities. He asks them for an answer. Asuka refuses to enter that community, since she was very strong. Besides, before coming here she was someone with many privileges, and she would not like that to be repeated. That man cannot tolerate this conceited. They rejected his proposal and he gets angry, but is silenced by the power of Asuka. She orders him to shut up. This girl was curious to know how this man had so many victories. With her power of control, she orders him to answer all the questions. She asks him how he always won the games. This man can't refuse to talk and says that before every important game, they kidnap the kids from the other team to blackmail them. It turns out that this man was not as good as he seemed. The man is released from control and quickly attacks the girls, but is very easily cut down by Kasu. Asuka asks if all of Aldo's employees were this evil. Aldo replies that they had all lost a fight and had to obey him by the rules of this world. Asuka challenges him to a community fight. The loser loses everything. The day they scheduled was for the next day. Later, the rabbit girl gets angry with these girls and explains that she, being a different species, will not be able to fight. The only way to win this was to ask Izayoi for help, but he refuses to participate because he wants to see how skilled these women are. If they lose, he will leave the community for wimps. Kurosagwe is sad because these rookies were already in a fight with another community. At the end of the day, they arrived where the community that summoned them was. Everything here was a completely destroyed and forgotten place. The newcomers analyze the situation and realize that this place was completely destroyed by the enemies. Izayoi is excited to fight against other communities, but first he wants to test them. Meanwhile, at Aldo's mansion, a vampire woman increased Aldo's powers. The rabbit girl plants the water tree. From now on they will have fresh water. With the help of the orphans, they managed to clean the old mansion. Now the orphans had a better place to sleep. It was already night. Tomorrow they will have a fight against Aldo. Some men are prowling around at night. They had come to take the children hostage. But Izayoi discovers them. With her enormous power, she manages to scare these men away. They realize that their master Aldo might lose. They ask him to please defeat that damned oppressor. Izayoi says no problem, but the real hero is this guy here, pointing to Jim. Later, they return to the mansion. The little boy asks her why she said he will be the real hero, since he was just a sad wimp. Izayoi explains to him that the community where he belongs has no name and they need someone to lead them. He can imagine that they lost many fights because of this boy. If they want to regain the old status, they must take responsibility and regain the old glory. The boy tells him that he used to have very powerful friends within the community, but because they had lost some games, his friends were now slaves to other communities. They are interrupted by the girls. Izayoi tells them that they were having a heated talk and tells him that he has something to do and leaves, but before he leaves, Izayoi tells him that if they win tomorrow's fight, he will help them save the other team members who were enslaved. The next day, they were at Aldo's mansion ready for the fight, but the whole place was completely dark and gloomy. The rules were simple: they must eliminate the boss. The 3 of them go in search of Aldo, explore the place and find no one. Inside the mansion, they meet Aldo. They knew it was him, but for some reason he had transformed into a wild animal. Asuka uses his power to be able to control this beast, but it is useless. The beast had a lot of magical power. She ends up leaving the mansion for safety. The only one left inside was Kasu. She had a battle power capable of matching with this beast. Little Jim and Asuka have a conversation. Jim believes that Aldo received a power increase thanks to a vampire. It seems that someone is helping Aldo to win this fight. When suddenly Kasu arrives, she is completely injured. Kasu explains that she had a very close battle with that beast and managed to damage him badly, but she was also injured. A vampire girl is watching from afar as this fight unfolds. Asuka takes Kasu's sword and goes in search of the beast. She knows that Aldo is injured. If she doesn't take the initiative to win, Kasu's effort will be in vain. Asuka burns down Aldo's mansion to make Aldo lose even more life. She makes them chase her out of the forest. She had a plan. Asuka realizes that she could not only control people or animals, but also the environment around her. She commands the sword to have more magical power. The attack she performs was a bid for victory. After a risky fight, she manages to eliminate that bastard. The beast had been defeated, Aldo's tyranny had come to an end. Once the fight is over, the rabbit girl does her best to help the wounded. As they had won, Izayoi continued with his plan to help Jim to be recognized as a good leader. Now that they had won against Aldo, the employees were happy, because Aldo would never oppress them again. Izayoi together with Jim tell them that they are now free and to seek their own fortunes. These people are very grateful for what they have done. Izayoi asks them to thank Jim, as he will be the next leader to defeat the demons that invaded their land in the past. Already in the evening, Kurosagi learned that from now on Izayoi will help them with future fights or games. Izayoi says that he is a man of his word and will not go far. The rabbit girl explains to him that she has a very powerful friend who used to belong to this community. She asks him to please save her friend Leticia from slavery. Izayoi asks her to make preparations to challenge other communities. The rabbit girl is very happy. Now that Izayoi was alone, he realizes that someone was watching him. He asks her to come out. A beautiful woman enters through the window to this place. Izayoi asks her if she was the one who helped Aldo. She answers yes and out of nowhere starts an attack. He is not weak at all and defends himself easily. Izayoi is ready to finish her off when the rabbit girl arrives to stop them. Kurosagi explains that she is his friend Leticia. They have a chat and a lot of unnecessary conversations. The thing is, Leticia was worried about her old team. Now that she saw that these rookies had power, she wanted to test them to see if her friends were in good hands. She challenges them to a fight. Izayoi is willing to see how powerful this girl was. The duel was simple. She will throw an ability with all her power. If Izayoi can stop him, he will be more than qualified to protect his former community. Izayoi wasn't weak at all and manages to stop him with ease. He is disappointed that that was her best attack. The rabbit girl is worried about her friend and realizes that her friend didn't have much magic power. Leticia explains that her magic was taken away from her in one of the games. Suddenly, a mysterious lightning bolt strikes Leticia. She is completely petrified. Some men were responsible for this. They had come to take their slave. They asked them not to meddle in the affairs of other communities. Kurosagi is very angry about the way they took her friend. She wants to fight with everything she has, but she is stopped by Izayoi. He reminds her that this is not the time to fight. He asks her not to forget the rules of this world. She must retrieve them through games. They met with Leticia's owner. This man was the owner of a very large community and boasted of being a very good fighter. This man claims that he loves all the women in the world. He says that if they give him the rabbit girl, he will release Leticia. That was the only proposal to return Leticia. He gives them a week to think about that proposal and he leaves. Later, Kurosagi is very sad for her friend. She wants to turn herself in to get her friend back, but Asuka tries to convince her not to go. Just at that moment Izayoi arrives very happy. He breaks the door to show that he did something good. He brings with him something important to get Leticia back. Perseus is happy enjoying the tranquility. He can't wait to get his hands on Kurosagi. When suddenly the rabbit girl arrives, this man thinks that she has come to give herself up voluntarily. She denies it and explains that she came to challenge them. Perseus tells her that he will not accept any duel. But she pulls out 2 pearls. These pearls belonged to the Kraken and Greyas. Perseus cannot believe that these weaklings defeated these great mythical beasts. The one who defeated them was obviously Izayoi. Perseus is no longer happy about this. He decides to accept the fight they want once and for all. He says, "Come with everything you have," he will defeat them. The next day, they arrive at Perseus' mansion ready to get Leticia back. Kasu explains to them that there are many men inside the mansion who are powerful and they must be careful. None of this matters to Izayoi. He simply destroys the walls to gain entry. The commander informs his boss that there are intruders. Perseus orders them to eliminate anyone who disturbs their peace. They split up to search for the leader and end up confronting these soldiers. Fights here and fights there. The boys managed to defeat these soldiers with some difficulty. Perseus is surprised that they had come to this place. He says that later he will punish his subordinates for inefficiency. Now that they were here, it was not yet time to fight him. Perseus summons a demon called Algol. This demon petrifies everyone around him. Perseus laughs that everyone turned to stone. The only ones left were these young men. Jim asks him to please fight with all his might. Izayoi simply laughs and says he is ready for the fight. The demon throws his best skills to defeat Izayoi. But this boy is very powerful, even he gains in strength. Perseus can't believe his demon is losing and tries to fight by himself, but Izayoi easily dodges him. This man is tired of this boy and asks the demon to use his best attack. The demon uses all his power to petrify Izayoi. But this boy was not weak at all. With one kick he managed to break the attack. Now it was time for the counterattack, and with a single blow he manages to defeat that demon. Perseus falls surrendered to these rookies. Kurosagi rushes to declare Izayoi's victory, but he stops her. He explains that it's not over yet, he still needs to have more fun. Izayoi provokes Perseus to use his best skills. If she doesn't, he will completely destroy her palace and her men, so he better come with everything. Perseus wakes up and attacks with everything he has. But the answer to the fight is more than obvious. The next day Leticia wakes up. She can understand that her friends had won against that pervert. The other kids welcome her back. The community decided to create a party to welcome Leticia. They created a big banquet. They look at the sky without knowing the future ahead. Whoever comes, Izayoi will defeat them with his fists.